You won't believe this. Karen dragged me to court claiming my late uncle promised her his classic car, with zero proof, just her word. The first time Alex Mercer laid eyes on Uncle Jack's 1967 Shelby GT 500, he was 8 years old. The metallic blue muscle car gleamed under the summer sun as his uncle pulled into the driveway, engine rumbling like distant thunder. It wasn't just a car, it was automotive royalty. 23 years later, as Alex stood in the courthouse hallway clutching an official summons, that memory seemed both vivid and impossibly distant. "Your uncle verbally promised me that car," Karen Whitfield hissed, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "And I intend to prove it." At 45, Karen had the polished appearance of someone who spent considerable time and money maintaining it. Her blonde hair was styled in an immaculate bob, her navy pantsuit pristine and likely expensive. She'd been Uncle Jack's girlfriend for the last 8 months of his life, a relationship that had raised eyebrows in the family given that she was 15 years his junior and had appeared seemingly from nowhere shortly after Jack's diagnosis. "Ms. Whitfield," Alex's attorney Rebecca Chen interjected calmly, "will address all claims in court. Please direct communications through me." The courthouse corridor buzzed with activity. Lawyers hurrying past with briefcases, clerks shuffling paperwork, families huddled in tense conferences. Yet somehow, Karen had managed to corner Alex during a brief moment when Rebecca stepped away to take a call. "Jack wanted me to have that car," Karen continued, ignoring Rebecca's instruction. "We have plans, restoration projects, road trips." Her voice cracked slightly. "He promised." Alex said nothing, keenly aware that anything he uttered could potentially be twisted and used against him. The past 3 weeks since Uncle Jack's funeral had been a nightmare, grief intertwined with legal battles he never saw coming. The classic Shelby, which Uncle Jack had specifically left to Alex in his will, had become the center of an ugly dispute. Rebecca returned, placing a protective hand on Alex's shoulder. "Ms. Whitfield, this conversation is over." As Karen stalked away, Alex exhaled slowly. "She really believes she's entitled to it, doesn't she?" "People convince themselves of all sorts of things when inheritance is involved," Rebecca replied. "But documented wills generally trump alleged verbal promises." The courtroom doors opened and they filed inside. The room was smaller than Alex had imagined from television dramas, intimate enough that he could see every detail of the judge's stern expression as she reviewed documents at her bench. Wood paneling gave the space a somber gravity appropriate for matters of life, death, and what remains behind. Jack Mercer had been more than just an uncle to Alex. After Alex's parents died in a car accident when he was 12, Uncle Jack had stepped in, not as a replacement father, but as a constant, reliable presence. He taught Alex how to change oil, how to navigate difficult conversations, how to rebuild after loss. The classic Shelby wasn't just a valuable car, it represented those Sunday afternoons spent in Jack's garage learning and healing. As the proceedings began, Alex watched Karen take her seat at the opposing table. Her attorney, a sharp-featured man with salt and pepper hair, leaned to whisper something in her ear. She nodded, her expression hardening with determination. "All rise," the bailiff announced as Judge Sandra Ortiz entered. "The Superior Court of Jefferson County is now in session, the Honorable Judge Ortiz presiding." Alex rose to his feet, feeling as though the ghost of Uncle Jack stood beside him. He could almost hear Jack's gruff voice. "Stand your ground, kid. Truth's got a way of coming to light." But as he faced the judge, doubt crept in. Karen seemed so convinced, so righteously indignant. Had Uncle Jack made promises Alex knew nothing about? In the 4 months of Jack's rapid decline when pain medications sometimes clouded his thinking, could he have said things he didn't mean? Or worse, things he did mean but never formalized? Judge Ortiz adjusted her glasses and addressed the room. "We're here today regarding the estate dispute of Jack Thomas Mercer, specifically concerning a 1967 Shelby GT 500 Mustang. Let's begin." As the judge spoke those words, Alex realized this was about much more than just a car. It was about his uncle's final wishes, about family legacy, and about standing firm against someone who had swept into their lives and now threatened to sweep away one of his most precious connections to the man who had helped raise him. Karen's attorney, Martin Lockwood, rose with the confidence of someone who had spent decades in courtrooms. His charcoal suit and burgundy tie projected an image of conservative trustworthiness that Alex immediately distrusted. "Your Honor, this case is fundamentally about honoring verbal commitments. While my client's name may not appear on the written will that Mr. Mercer's nephew is relying upon, we have substantial evidence that Jack Mercer intended for Ms. Whitfield to receive the vehicle in question." Judge Ortiz's expression remained neutral. "And what evidence would that be, Mr. Lockwood?" Lockwood smiled thinly. "We have text messages, witness testimony from friends of the deceased, and most importantly, the video recording where Mr. Mercer clearly states his intention to give the car to Ms. Whitfield." Alex felt the blood drain from his face. A video. He glanced at Rebecca, who maintained her professional composure but squeezed his arm slightly in reassurance. "If I may approach, Your Honor," Lockwood continued, "I'd like to submit these materials into evidence." As the judge reviewed the documents, Alex's mind raced. Uncle Jack had been meticulous about his will. After his diagnosis of aggressive pancreatic cancer, he had updated all his legal affairs with careful precision. The Shelby had been specifically mentioned with detailed instructions about its care and maintenance. How could there be contradicting evidence? Rebecca stood. "Your Honor, while we haven't had the opportunity to review these materials until now, I would like to note that Mr. Mercer executed a legally binding will just 6 weeks before his passing, with 2 witnesses present and all proper procedures followed. That will clearly bequeath the vehicle to my client." Judge Ortiz nodded. "Duly noted, Ms. Chen. Let's examine the evidence Mr. Lockwood has presented." The courtroom's AV system crackled to life as a video began playing on the wall-mounted screen. Uncle Jack appeared, looking gaunt from his illness but sitting upright in his favorite leather armchair. The timestamp showed a date just 3 weeks before his death. "This car," Jack's voice was raspy but clear, "has been my pride and joy for almost 40 years. Karen, sweetheart, I want you to have it after I'm gone. You understand this old beast better than anyone else I know." The camera moved, revealing Karen sitting beside him, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. "Jack, don't talk like that." No, it needs saying," Jack insisted. "You've made these last months bearable. The car's yours." Alex felt his throat tighten. The words were unmistakable, but something about the scene felt wrong. Uncle Jack's cadence, his choice of words, it didn't sound like him. And sweetheart. Alex had never heard his uncle use terms of endearment so freely. The video continued for another minute before ending with Karen kissing Jack's cheek. Lockwood paused the playback with a triumphant expression. "As you can see, Your Honor, Mr. Mercer's intentions were clear." Rebecca rose immediately. "Your Honor, we request time to authenticate this video." The timing is suspect, taken after Mr. Mercer had already executed his formal will, while he was on high doses of pain medication and apparently without any family members present. Judge Ortiz considered this. "That seems reasonable. I'll grant a 2-week continuance for both parties to analyze the evidence. Ms. Chen, you'll have full access to examine the video and any other materials Mr. Lockwood has submitted." As they gathered their belongings after the judge's exit, Alex felt numb. Karen approached, her expression a mixture of sympathy and determination. "Alex, this doesn't have to be adversarial. Jack wanted me out of the car. You know how close we were at the end." Before Alex could respond, Rebecca stepped between them. "Ms. Whitfield, as I said before, all communications need to go through counsel." Outside the courthouse, spring sunshine felt incongruous with Alex's darkening mood. "That video blindsided us," he said quietly. Rebecca nodded. "It did, but there's something off about it. I'm going to have a digital forensics expert look at it." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "Alex, did your uncle ever mention giving the car to Karen, even in passing?" "Never. Not once." Alex ran a hand through his hair. "That car was his connection to my dad. They restored it together in their 20s. He always said it would stay in the family." "What about his medical condition during those final weeks? The video timestamp is from when?" 3 weeks before he died. He was not always himself by then. The pain medication made him confused sometimes. There were good days and bad days. Rebecca's office was minimalist but warm. Potted succulents lined the windowsill, and a framed photo of her rock climbing in Yosemite suggested a life beyond legal briefs. At 8:05 a.m., she spread several documents across her desk as Alex nursed a coffee that tasted better than anything his own kitchen produced. "Karen Whitfield isn't exactly who she claims to be," Rebecca began, sliding a folder toward Alex. "For starters, until 18 months ago, she was Karen Reeves. She was married 3 times," Rebecca confirmed. "And here's where it gets interesting. All 3 husbands were significantly older men with considerable assets." She pointed to 3 driver's license photos. Husband number 1, James Whitfield, died of heart failure 10 months after their wedding. She inherited a condo in Scottsdale. Husband number 2, Gerald Markham, stroke 14 months after marriage. She got a vacation property in Maine and about $200,000. She kept husband number 1's last name, by the way. Alex felt his stomach tighten. And the 3rd? Robert Donovan passed away from complications of pneumonia 13 months after their wedding. Left her approximately $350,000. Rebecca leaned back. In each case, she met these men shortly after they'd received difficult medical diagnosis. So she targets vulnerable older men? It appears that way. And there's more. Rebecca pulled up an image on her tablet, a social media post from an automotive restoration group. Looked familiar. The photo showed a smiling Karen standing beside a cherry-red 1970 Dodge Challenger at a car show. "That's not Uncle Jack's car," Alex said, confused. "No, that belonged to husband number 3. According to posts in this group, it was a contentious inheritance item. Robert Donovan's son from his first marriage claimed the car was promised to him. Karen produced a video showing Robert saying he wanted her to have it. "You're kidding," Alex breathed. "I wish I were." The son eventually dropped his challenge, didn't have the financial resources to fight it. Karen sold the Challenger 6 months later for $137,000. Alex stared at the photo. "She's a predator." I had our digital forensics expert, Dr. Nyla Washington, do a preliminary review of the video last night. She's agreed to testify. Rebecca pulled up an email. Her initial assessment is that while the video has been expertly edited, there are subtle inconsistencies in the audio, micro delays in responses, unnatural mouth movements during certain phrases. Deepfake. Possibly, or clever editing of actual footage. Either way, Dr. Washington believes she can prove manipulation given enough time. Alex's phone buzzed. Text from Miguel. Asterisk, found something in Jack's garage you need to see. Today, if possible, asterisk. After showing Rebecca the message, they agreed Alex would meet Miguel while she continued building their case. 2 hours later, Alex pulled into the driveway of Uncle Jack's modest ranch-style home. The property was in limbo, part of the estate yet to be settled, though Alex had a key and maintained it. Miguel's pickup truck sat in the driveway, its bed loaded with gardening equipment. At 72, Miguel still ran the landscaping business he and Jack had started together decades ago before Jack transitioned to automotive restoration. In here, Miguel called from the garage as Alex approached. The space still smelled of motor oil and the sandalwood car freshener Uncle Jack favored. The Shelby's absence left a conspicuous void. The car had been moved to secure storage when the legal dispute began. Miguel stood by Uncle Jack's workbench, where an old desktop computer hummed. Jack was old school, kept physical records of everything. But he also backed up important stuff. He pointed to an external hard drive connected to the computer. Found this hidden behind his toolbox. It was labeled insurance. What's on it? Security camera footage, Miguel said grimly. Jack installed cameras after some tools were stolen last year. They upload to cloud storage in this drive. I didn't even think about it until yesterday. Alex leaned forward as Miguel clicked through files, eventually opening a video dated 5 weeks before Uncle Jack's death. The grainy footage showed the garage from an overhead angle. Karen entered, looking around cautiously before approaching the Shelby. She opened the driver's door, sat inside, and began taking photos of the interior, the dashboard, the engine compartment. Then she made a phone call. Though the audio was faint, they could make out phrases. Worth at least $300,000. Yes, Barrett Jackson auction. No, the nephew has no idea. Miguel opened another file from a week later. This time, Karen was in the garage with a tall, thin man Alex didn't recognize. They were examining the Shelby's engine compartment, the man taking measurements and notes. The emergency hearing was scheduled in a smaller courtroom than before. Alex arrived early, finding Rebecca already reviewing documents at the plaintiff's table. She looked up as he approached, her expression grave. Lockwood filed his supplementary evidence brief at 5:30 a.m. The clerk just gave me a copy. She slid a folder across the table. It's complicated. Alex flipped through the documents, his confusion growing. Certificate of title, bill of sale, dated 1985. I don't understand. Rebecca lowered her voice. Karen is claiming your uncle never legally owned the Shelby. According to these documents, Jack sold the car 38 years ago to a man named Edward Voss. Apparently, the sale was recorded, but the title transfer was never properly filed with the DMV. That's absurd. Uncle Jack has had that car my entire life. The documents appear authentic. Lockwood is arguing that since Jack didn't legally own the car, he couldn't bequeath it to you. And furthermore, Rebecca hesitated. What? Karen has produced a bill of sale showing that she purchased the car from Edward Voss's son last month after Jack's death. She's claiming she now has legal ownership regardless of what Jack's will states. Alex felt as though the floor had dropped away beneath him. This can't be right. Uncle Jack would have mentioned selling the car, and he definitely wouldn't have included it in his will if he didn't own it. The courtroom doors opened as Karen entered with Lockwood. She wore a conservative gray dress and carried herself with quiet confidence. Unlike their previous encounter, she didn't acknowledge Alex at all. Judge Ortiz arrived promptly at 9:00 a.m., reviewing the new filings with a furrowed brow before addressing the court. Mr. Lockwood, these documents present a significant change to your client's position. Previously, you argued that Mr. Mercer verbally promised the vehicle to Ms. Whitfield. Now you're claiming Mr. Mercer didn't legally own the vehicle at all. Lockwood stood. Your Honor, these documents only recently came to light during my client's efforts to ensure proper transfer of the vehicle. When Ms. Whitfield began researching the car's history for insurance purposes, she discovered this discrepancy in the chain of title. Upon further investigation, she located Mr. Voss's son, who confirmed his father had purchased the vehicle in 1985, but allowed Mr. Mercer to keep and maintain it under an informal arrangement. The judge turned to Rebecca. Ms. Chen, your response? Your Honor, we were only provided these documents this morning and haven't had the opportunity to verify their authenticity. Furthermore, we have evidence suggesting Ms. Whitfield has engaged in a pattern of deceptive practices regarding this inheritance claim, including submitting manipulated video evidence. Judge Ortiz raised an eyebrow. That's a serious allegation. We have a digital forensics expert prepared to testify that the video Ms. Whitfield submitted was digitally altered. Additionally, we discovered security camera footage from Mr. Mercer's garage showing Ms. Whitfield preparing and possibly coaching Mr. Mercer for that video. Lockwood interjected, Your Honor, these accusations are merely desperate attempts to distract from the clear chain of title issue. The ownership documents speak for themselves. For the next hour, both attorneys argue their positions. Rebecca requested time to authenticate the newly presented documents and to have their forensics expert testify about the video. Lockwood insisted the title issue rendered the video evidence irrelevant. As Alex listened, a memory surfaced. Uncle Jack telling a story about the summer the Shelby almost got away. He mentioned something about paperwork problems and a mix-up with a buddy. At the time, Alex hadn't paid much attention to the details. He scribbled a note to Rebecca. Asterisk might be partial truth here. Need to talk to Miguel again, asterisk. Judge Ortiz finally spoke. Here's what we're going to do. I'm granting Ms. Chen's request for time to examine these title documents. I'm also interested in hearing from the forensics expert regarding the video evidence. We'll reconvene in 3 days. In the meantime, the vehicle remains in secure storage. Outside the courtroom, Alex called Miguel immediately. Uncle Jack ever mentioned selling the Shelby to someone named Edward Voss in the 80s. Miguel was silent for a moment. Eddie Voss? Yeah, I remember him. Army buddy of Jack's. There was some kind of arrangement between them, but I don't think Jack actually sold him the car. What kind of arrangement? Jack was going through a rough patch financially in '85. Eddie loaned him some money, and they did some paperwork with the car as collateral. But Jack paid him back within a year. This was the break they needed. Miguel, would you be willing to testify about this? The morning of the final hearing arrived with ominous gray clouds and the distant rumble of thunder. Alex felt the weight of the weather match the gravity of the day ahead as he knotted his tie in front of the bathroom mirror. His phone buzzed, a text from Rebecca. Asterisk, Karen's attorney just filed an emergency motion. Arrive early if possible, asterisk. When Alex reached the courthouse at 8:15, Rebecca was waiting in the corridor, her expression tense. What happened? He asked. Karen's playing her final card. Rebecca handed him a document. Lockwood filed this motion 30 minutes ago. The document was a sworn affidavit from Karen claiming she wasn't just Jack's girlfriend, she was his wife. According to the affidavit, they had married in a private ceremony in Las Vegas 6 weeks before his death, and she had documentation to prove it. This is insane, Alex whispered. Uncle Jack would never have kept something like that secret. If true, it changes everything, Rebecca said quietly. As a spouse, she could potentially claim spousal rights to the estate regardless of the will. Alex's mind raced. Uncle Jack had been increasingly private during his illness, occasionally mentioning weekend trips to clear his head. Could he have secretly married Karen during one of those absences? I don't believe it, he said firmly. This is another fabrication. The courtroom was more crowded than previous hearings. Word had spread about the contentious classic car case, drawing curious courthouse regulars and even a reporter from the local paper. Alex spotted Miguel in the back row, giving him a supportive nod. Karen entered wearing a somber black dress, the picture of a grieving widow. Beside her, Lockwood carried a leather portfolio that presumably contained the marriage documentation. Judge Ortiz called the court to order, her expression stern as she addressed the attorneys. Mr. Lockwood, I understand you filed a last-minute motion regarding your client's marital status. Normally, I would reject such a late filing, but given its potential relevance, I'll allow it. Please present your evidence. Lockwood approached the bench with a document. Your Honor, this is a certified copy of a marriage certificate from Clark County, Nevada, confirming that Jack Thomas Mercer and Karen Elizabeth Whitfield were legally married on February 14th of this year. The date struck Alex like a physical blow. Valentine's Day, 6 weeks before Uncle Jack's death. He'd been in the hospital that weekend for a particularly aggressive round of treatment. Alex had offered to stay with him, but Jack insisted he would be fine and that Alex should go home to rest. Judge Ortiz examined the certificate. Ms. Chen, your response? Rebecca rose. Your Honor, this is the first we're hearing of this alleged marriage. Mr. Mercer never informed his family or changed his marital status on any legal documents, including his will, which was updated just 2 weeks after this supposed marriage. The marriage was kept private at Jack's request, Karen interjected, her voice breaking slightly. He didn't want to fuss given his condition. Judge Ortiz silenced her with a look. Ms. Whitfield, please speak only when questioned. For the next hour, both sides presented their arguments. Rebecca detailed the evidence they discovered, the security camera footage showing Karen's premeditation, Dr. Washington's expert testimony about the manipulated video, the documents proving Jack's full ownership of the Shelby, and Ryan Chambers' sworn statement about Karen's questions regarding voice cloning technology. Lockwood countered that none of this negated the legal marriage, which gave Karen certain rights regardless of the will's specific provisions. As the arguments continued, Alex's phone vibrated with a text from an unfamiliar number. Asterisk, check email now. Important. Nurse Diaz asterisk. Confused, Alex discreetly opened his email to find a message from Luisa Diaz, one of Uncle Jack's hospice nurses during his final weeks. Asterisk, Alex, I heard about the court case from Miguel. I was working the weekend. Ms. Whitfield claims she married your uncle. Jack never left the hospital that weekend. He had a severe reaction to his treatment and was under 24-hour monitoring. I've attached his medical records showing continuous care from Feb 12 to 16. There's no way he was in Las Vegas. I'm on my way to the courthouse now, asterisk. Alex's heart pounded as he showed the email to Rebecca, who immediately requested a brief recess to review new evidence. Judge Ortiz granted 15 minutes. In the hallway, Alex and Rebecca huddled with Nurse Diaz, who had arrived breathless with a folder of medical records. The timestamps and monitoring logs are conclusive, she explained. Jack couldn't have left the hospital that weekend. He was too ill. When court resumed, Rebecca presented the medical records as evidence, requesting the court verify them of the hospital.